Welcome to Taking It to the Streets. I'm your host, Andy Goldman from sunny St. Pete, Florida. This is the show where we take it to the streets, knowing if we don't, the streets will take it to us. Welcome to Taking It to the Streets. It's Andy Goldman. This is the show that is brought to you every week by Rightwood Medical. www.rightwoodmedical.com. That's with a W, WRIGHTWOOD medical.com. 773-848-7100. They are your leader in buying back your old medical equipment, the unwanted stuff in the garage, in the physician's clinic, at the hospital. Once again, rightwoodmedical.com, 773-848-7100. Okay. To say that today is a deviation from the norm would be an understatement of massive proportions. I mean, we are a tried and true NFL. We pick games. We bring you well-known guests or attempt to. But the one thing in my core that I'm a sucker for is a good story. You've heard me allude many times. I've opened up my heart to you as far as from a sports standpoint, things that move me. I told you one time how much I love Breaking Away. It's my favorite movie. And anything that shows heart and commitment and is real, I'm a sucker for. I would go back to Breaking Away. Breaking Away almost feels like a documentary because it's that real if you're watching it. And especially if you're from the Midwest and you're of that, era, late 70s, early 80s. Way back when, I was a true lover of running. And I'm going to go first before I bring my two guests into the fold as the backstory of this. So I'm living in Chicago and just starting my career. It's the early 90s. And there's a bit of a boom that's occurring on the lakefront, Chicago, I would call it. It's a boom. I mean, come 5:30 at night, 6 o'clock at night, lots of people are down there running on the lakefront path. So you're listening to in Chicago from Wellington, where the stop sign is, all the way down past the beach volleyball courts on North Avenue, the Castaways Bar. It was just chock full of runners. I know there's still a really big running scene there right now. I've left Chicago years ago, but I enjoyed it. And if you're a person that's run a 5K for your company or a 10K because it's a personal achievement, and then you graduate to half marathon, or those of you that have run a marathon, this might resonate with you. So for me, I started to have friends that were runners. They weren't my normal friends. They were people that were really in this culture on the lakefront path in Chicago that would meet every night. We would grind hard, 5, 6, 7 milers Wednesday nights at a track just outside of Cabrini Green, as gritty as could be. And we really got into it. And from 93 to 2002, I ran a marathon every single year. So my first one was in Austin, Texas. My last one was New York City Marathon. In between were 7 Chicagos and a rock and roll marathon in San Diego. So I love running. I get the endorphin buzz that occurs during it. I get the hardship, the personal achievement, the grueling nature of it on some level. At least I thought I did until the two gentlemen I'm about to introduce you to. And it's a grind, and you have to love the journey, not the mountaintop. It's the essence of that. Okay, you're never going to win the race. You're never going to beat the Kenyan or the Ethiopian at Chicago. So the whole thing is about those grinding runs, those 5, 6, 7 milers on the lakefront with this new group of buddies, men and women that you've become friends with that are solid runners, all in great shape. They're not going to win the race. So that's where I take you now. So the guy that's in the upper left is Matt Casalone. Never thought I'd see him on my podcast, Taking It to the Streets. Matt and I are been buddies for 30 plus years. He's a fraternity brother of mine. So Matt and I go all the way back to our days at University of Missouri. I've spoken about my days at University of Missouri many times favorably and how much I love being a Tiger. And the gentleman below is Jeff Mikesell. And the two of these guys met recently, and they were running the Tunnel Hill 100 race in Southern Illinois. Okay? It's a 100-mile race, folks. So everything I just gave you, all of the training that I did on the lakefront, the speed workouts on Wednesday nights in Cabrini Green, it would be 1/4 of what these guys did just recently. Okay. Now I'm impressed with that alone, but let me go on. For Matt, he's a rookie. That was a life achievement. That was his first one. Okay. He's run 2 half Ironman and 1 full Ironman on his resume just to get to that starting line and have the confidence that he could make it to the finish line. You have to have something on your resume. This isn't something you're going to show up for, folks, and just wing it. This is where we stop the Jingle Bell Run 5K and the 10K with your neighbors part. This is where it gets serious. The gentleman below, Jeff, has run 73 of these races. So he is a full-on, legit, ultra marathoner. Okay? Now, part of Jeff's story is a story that blows me away of course we could just all be blown away collectively because he's run 73 100-mile races. I talked to Jeff on Saturday, and there was stuff that I'm still trying to unpack. How many 100-plus races he's run, prepping with 50-mile races. But here's the thing that I think speaks to the whole thing before I let these guys talk. Jeff was intrigued with a buddy of his in the early 90s, and the buddy said, let's take this on. It was in the Cascade Mountains, British Columbia, Canada, 100-mile race. Jeff was in. He went for it. That's all altitude. It's a grind. It's going to be high altitude. It's going to be brutal. He didn't finish the 3 times consecutively they tried to run this race. You'd figure that would be the end. You figure that his heart would be broken, that maybe that would quash his dreams of doing this. Hey, it's not meant for me. That race actually didn't continue on, but Jeff did continue on and went down to the San Gabriels outside of LA and completed his first 100-miler and a career that has been beyond prolific. So I hope, guys, that I painted the picture correctly. I'm going to start with Jeff. Jeff, did I get it correct as far as it's the journey? It's not the completion of one of these things?
Well, it is a journey, but completing each race is really important to me. But there's a lot that happens along the way. It's like I'm only 50 miles into Tunnel Hill when I meet Matt. And it's relationships like this that, there's over 20 runners out there that I send my race reports to, and countless folks I've met over the years. But it is a journey, and there's something about crossing the finish line after you've spent hours questioning whether you're going to cross the finish line. And there are times where I'm convinced I'm not, but I just keep going and I get there. And a lot of it, there's other training that, I do, core work, weight training. I'm 65 years old, and I'm trying to fight father age for as long as I can and keep doing these. But there are folks out there older than I am who are still running 100-mile races.
Kaz, what was your motivation to do this? I know that you've hinted a couple times with the Iron Man, and probably that was the segue, that the sticking your pinky into the deep end. But what made you do the 100-miler?
Well, it's probably relates to it kind of goes back to the past and to the present. I always felt like I was, kind of the imposter syndrome. I feel like I never had my best race. In high school, I was a decent runner. And, of course, I behaved like a 16 or 17-year-old and just I was immature and didn't really appreciate it and didn't, never felt like I fully trained for it. And then, as I got older, I appreciated it. I've done 18 marathons, and even that became sort of, I thought, well, the next step is just to get 20, but then I thought, that's not even really, doesn't really matter if I'm just going to go through the motions. So I decided to try to challenge myself more, and to, I was fearful that I didn't want to become a spectator. So I was fearful that if I did I would start to slide, just downslide in my life. So I thought, I'm going to give this one more try. I'm 57, so I'm quite a bit, younger than Jeff, and it's each year matters. Each year's harder. So the first thing I did was the half Ironman, because I was afraid of swimming. I'm not a good swimmer. I'm an average biker, and then a little bit better runner. And so that was tough. And I knew once I got the half and then I did the full, I thought I wanted a tougher, even just a different challenge. And so the 100-miler is a lot different. It's just there's so many more things can happen. The training's a lot, it's more focused on nutrition and weight training and lifting, and which the Ironman is too. But it was just a different challenge. And I guess I just wanted to get the regrets off the table and to take it more seriously now and just see what I have left in the tank.
Jeff, what was your why? What was the reason why you got on the starting blocks, the first one after the 3 DNFs in the Cascade Mountains? What was your motivation to do it?
I think I was just young and didn't know any better. And, that was a long time ago. It was 1999. And I remember thinking at the time, if I don't finish this race, maybe this isn't for me. And I tried to stop at mile 85. It was a pretty remote aid station. There was an older couple who were manning the aid station. Then I came in and they asked what I needed, and I just said, nothing, I'm done. And I didn't realize it, but the lady, she took my water bottles, and her husband knelt down in front of me and just started encouraging me that I could finish this race. I only have 15 miles left. And I recall pulling out a map that showed the 2 climbs I had left. I said, no, I can't make the cutoff. And the next thing I know, she's just handing me my water bottles, and I got up and I left. And it was that couple that may have saved, my ultra career, if I can use that word. But, I didn't really have at the time a specific goal. I think I was just trying to finish one. And like my buddy was there again. Actually, I had 2 buddies down there, and my wife at the time went, another lady went. So we kind of went down as a kind of a group, and I took another shot at it.
So 11 hours, 30 minutes into Tunnel Hill. Walk me through, Cass, how you and Jeff hooked up and what state of mind you were at mentally and physically, and how the whole relationship kind of begins from there.
Yes, I believe that was after the 50-mile mark. And is that correct, Jeff? I think it was. And Jeff came up next to me and said, hey, it was starting to get dark. And he said, do you need somebody to, you want to go together for a little while? And by this time I was kind of doubting my own thing. And I felt okay at 50, but I knew there's no way I have another 50 in me. So I thought, I told him, no, just go ahead. I don't, I'm not really fit for anybody right now. And then he said, no, just, you look okay. I've been watching you and you're going to be fine. Because I was worried I was going to hold him back. And again, I had no idea his resume either. I just really didn't want to, I was just kind of struggling with my own head, and I didn't want to drag anybody in there with me. And so, but he said, no, just take it easy. And let's just, kind of do it at a certain pace and then see what you got for a while. And then if it doesn't work out, then just do your thing. And so I was glad. Because again, the first time I was really pretty sure I was going to say no, and then he insisted. So the second time I said, okay, let's just see what and it good, because it drugged me, it picked me up again.
And Jeff, what's your rendering of it? So what state was Matt in when you saw him at the 50-mile marker?
He seemed all right. I'd been watching him for quite some time. I came out of the aid station in mile 50, and all I could see was a beam of light up ahead of me. And I knew I was reaching the point where I was going to start getting drowsy. So I was looking for somebody to hang out with. And it was taking me a long time to catch up to him. And I'm thinking, if I can catch up to this guy, we're going about the same pace. And I'll have somebody to help me get through the night. And I picked up my pace, and I was pretty much power walking, but I threw in a few a few little jogs here and there to catch up to him. And like I usually do, I said, "Hey, how you doing, bud?" And then we just started chatting. I assured him that, no, you're going plenty fast. We'll make the cutoffs at this pace and let's hang out. And then we just took it from there, really.
Jeff, you are, is it fair to say you're chasing down history by trying to get to 100 completions of these, which would make you one of 50 people, I think, on Earth that's can say that?
I would like to be one of the first 50. I think they're somewhere in the mid 30s right now. I don't know how many runners are out there ahead of me. I know one guy who's at 96. So obviously he's going to get there before me. But if I'm not in the top 50, I can't control other people. I can just do what I'm able to do and try and have as much fun as I can while I'm doing it. But I plan on getting there, hopefully in the first quarter of 2027.
And Cass, will you do this
And
again?
hopefully I'll be out there with Matt a few times.
I hope so too. So imagine.
I'm sorry?
Imagine when we're talking, because of course, the whole reason to bond with somebody is to start asking questions, try to get your mind off the time and thing, and so I find out pretty soon that he's run he's finished 72 of these things, and but that's where I think the most important part is he could have been. I felt like he believed in me, even though I told him this was my first, and he didn't treat me like he treated me like a peer almost, instead of just a, hey, I'm gonna tell you everything, and you don't know what you're doing or anything. It was so I like that. So I thought, okay, that helped me too. Just anything at that moment, because the deeper you get into this race, and I know I'm not totally answering the question, but this is kind of the thing that really impressed me, is the deeper you get into the race, you start to lose. You have more doubts. It goes up and down. You sort of lose motor skills. Just things happen, and so the better your mind frame is, which he helped me kind of get settled. That really helps. I appreciate that. I hope to be able to do that one day to someone else too.
Yeah.
Because 72, I'm thinking
you pay it forward.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I'm sure someone did it for Jeff, years ago. So it's a pay it forward kind of thing. I mean, Jeff's smiling because yes, it's probably been done for Jeff many times, where you pick that person up out of the canoe when the rapids are coming your way, and you hold on and help them get back into the canoe. It's their first time. And so that was, I just can't imagine what the night was like. It almost feels like a war story. I mean, you're the exertion, the will to survive, all those different aspects are tantamount to war. I know it's not war. I'm not trying to make it as dramatic as that, but I'm just trying to make the analogy that the will to survive is unquestioned, correct? That is a big part of this thing. There's a survival piece. There's a part, they don't leave the finish line open for 2 days. A lot of these are capped at 48, 50 hours, correct? It's not just, or else maybe others would be interested in doing it. This is a legit race. Yes, your body might not run the whole 100, but your body will do the 100. Correct?
Correct.
And they'll do it, and your body will do it at X period of time.
That is correct.
So, there was Megan. You guys had a third wheel. This woman that was with you, that was part of Tunnel Hill. And from what I know about Megan is that she was hanging with you guys. You had to let her go because Jeff, I guess that's part of the code. Unless the person's in medical duress, it's your race too. You got to kind of go on, correct? It's not something where you want to do it, but you have to do it. Is that correct?
It was a tough decision. What helped me was her father was with her, and he was going to pace her for a while. And but it was great when Matt and I hit the turnaround, and we were on our way back in towards the finish, and then we saw Megan, and she was looking a whole lot better at that point. And I wish I would have stayed around to see her finish, but when we finished, it was just like pissing down rain, and it was cold, and I just wanted to get in the car and get some dry clothes on. But No, she was a trooper too.
You know, and along those lines, so I think we met her at about mile 60, and then 76 is where at 76 there was kind of this major um, stop for, you know, that's where we decided, okay, we need to get different clothes on because it was starting to, the weather was changing a lot, changed, I don't know, 30 some degrees or more than that. But that's where we're also, it's, you know, I wasn't thinking correctly. And that's where the confusion came. We all three kind of split up. She was a little bit behind. So, and that's where, you know, all this fear was running through me. Oh, I think they're going to leave me, you know, because I was away from them for probably 10 minutes. And again, in a normal race, this doesn't seem like a big deal, but here, everything's running. You're just not thinking normally that's why it's different than a marathon and stuff like that for me is I just didn't really, I never stopped to rationalize things. So I was trying to just get my pants on, which was hard enough. And then I think, oh my gosh, they left me or did I leave them? And because we couldn't find each other for a while. So I didn't even know we had left Megan. I figured those two were together and they had left me or I'd left them. And so that was probably the hardest part of the race for me, the most traumatic part. And again, it seems something so simple, but I thought 24 miles, normally that's another marathon, but that's that last marathon's the hardest one, of course. And I thought, oh, it's pitch dark and I'm in terrible shape. And now I don't even have these guys anymore. You know, they've left me or I've left them. I didn't know because, you know.
What's the hardest part of this thing, Cass? I mean, what is it the last marathon, so to speak? Is that really what you would say? I mean, is that the hardest part, or is it the elements, or is it? I mean, where are we going with it? I mean, what if you had to single out the hardest part was the hardest part of Tunnel Hill?
For me, I felt like in just this little thing between us three, I felt like I betrayed them, or I wasn't sure if I did or didn't, or I didn't know if they left me because I was too slow. So that was mentally speaking, that was the hardest part for me. I knew I was going to finish it, or I kept thinking I was going to finish it. So, but I think that was the hardest part for me. Was just that because I felt like we were, you know, I felt like they did so much for me, and I just, you know, that was by far the hardest, way harder than the running and stuff. I thought, gosh, these guys are never going to talk to me again, and you know, that's what I was thinking at the moment.
All right, Jeff. So I want to move the stage over to you a little bit here because I know the feedback I'm going to get on this. Tell us a bit about your life. Tell us a bit about who you are, how you got to this plateau of the 73 races. I don't think most people that heard my intro and heard that I did 10 marathons can think about doing that. I think that would be a trying enterprise for most people. So I want to know, I mean, you look like a mountain man. Are you a real mountain man? I mean, what is your background? How did you get to where we are now at this podcast?
I'm not a real mountain man. Actually, I served 20 years in the Air Force, so I was clean cut pretty much up until COVID. And this is my post-COVID look.
Okay.
And I started running 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, and marathons while I was still in the service. And it was in, I think it was 95 when my buddy, you mentioned him earlier, handed me a registration form. And that's how we did them. We mailed them in back then. And for the 100-miler in British Columbia. And I took a leap from the, 26.2 mile road marathon to a mountain run. We went over 9,300 feet. There was over, I think, 20,000 feet of climb. And I failed miserably, as I told you, 3 years in a row. So smarter runners do 50Ks, 50 miles, and gradually build themselves up. And that's what I would suggest. But, back in the day, I didn't do it that way. And we didn't have trail shoes. We didn't have hydration packs. We didn't have tech shirts. We were running in cotton shirts. And we didn't have the weather forecasts back then. And we just showed up and ran. And now I put so much time and effort into, leading up to a race just to make sure I have the right gear and enough gear. And so there's a lot more preparation that goes in now. And a lot of that is just from mistakes I've made over the years, lessons learned. And when I mentioned to my wife, Lynn, that I suggested to Matt we put pants on if his legs were cold at mile 76 where we got separated, she was surprised that he actually had the gear, because I've handed out flashlights to first-time 100-milers, and a lot of folks are just feel prepared for these races, but Matt had he was prepared with gear. He was mentally prepared, and I hope to share some more miles with them out there sometime, and we'll talk about that later on.
Yeah.
What I'd love to know from both you guys is what part of your life is fulfilled by doing this? So I think we have a good understanding of maybe the why and why you towed the line, but what part of your soul is fulfilled? We'll start with Matt by doing this.
Well, I think I'm doing it a lot for my kids and my close family. I don't know why I feel like hopefully they'll see me doing that and realize they can do anything. You know, almost anything's possible if you put your mind to it. And it's just as I said, to keep going. I don't want. I'm afraid. It's more because I don't want to stop. I'm afraid if I stop, and then, as I said, become a spectator, then I'll just go downhill.
And Jeff, where do you fall, Matt, as far as what part of your soul is fulfilled by this?
Yeah, that spectator comment is probably rings true for me as well. I was running a race a couple months ago, and I was struggling, and I was questioning, why do I do this? And I convinced myself, you don't have to do this, just stop. But the next question was, well, what do you do then? And there's nothing to replace the feeling, the euphoria when you cross the finish line. Because for me, the toughest part of these races are from about mile 15 to about mile 30. And because you're already tired, but you've got so long to go. And it's pushing through all those middle miles. And I was telling Matt, as we were approaching the finish line at Tunnel Hill, I said, this is our moment. I said, we're next. No one's going to pass us. Everyone in front of us is already finished. This is our moment. I should reflect on this and reflect on it when you get home. And because this is what it's all about. It's pushing through all that, the physical pain, the mental, the self-doubt, everything, and getting there. And I think for me, if I lose that, I don't know what I have. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm just trying to fight Father Time, and I'm going to keep doing them as long as I can. Maybe it's just, my wife said she did a research paper in college. She asked runners why they run marathons, and I guess the typical answer was, it's who I am. And I guess what I'm doing right now is who I am.
This is our moment. I'll tell you what, that just got to me, Jeff, because I got that on a small scale, getting across that finish line at 10 marathons and understanding what the last 0.2 of a mile, how powerful it is. And it is a moment. And the only thing that I can compare it to, I'm not a father, but it would be graduating college, just being able to look out and see my family, one of which was an alumni years ago. My mom was also a student at the school as well, didn't graduate, but it was powerful for me to be able to see that, see my grandma from St. Louis who had made the trip to watch me graduate. And those are moments that you never forget. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's academic or if it's a professional achievement through work. I don't know that I've had anything at work that resonates like that, but those 10 marathons, Matt and I ran a lot of road races together way before his ultramarathon foray. And we never, at least I didn't, I know he didn't either, keep the medal, but I sure as heck have my 10 medals of my marathon in a framed case in my office. And I do, because it is a moment, as you said. And, and I'm not, the purpose of this, folks, is not to make you want to do this. The purpose of this, if you're listening correctly, I think is there's a story of resilience, not quitting at something. This is something that's difficult. And whatever it might be in your life, I mean, Jeff here started by not finishing 3 of these, and now he's on the precipice of becoming one of maybe the first 50 in the world to have completed it. So I think that's the message. It's not go out and run a 100-mile race. We understand that's not realistic for the masses. But resilience and commitment is. Would you guys agree with that?
For sure.
So I think that's the comment everybody.
100%, yeah.
Jeff, I'm going to ask you, I know that during the race, I want you to share it with us. You asked Matt if you could read a poem about your dog. And, again, in the spirit of resilience and commitment, that I surely understand is what it's like to own a dog. I've had dogs. I've got an English cream golden retriever right now, an 8-year-old. And before him, I had an English black lab, and they're my children. I mean, I completely understand it. And thinking of them, if I was in a 100-mile race, I think would bring me strength. So if you wouldn't mind, humor us all, please, and read that poem.
I would love to. I'd like to say one thing. I was thinking about this since our conversation the other day. If I met Matt, like say in a bar, we're sitting at the bar having drinks, I would never look over at him and say, "Hey, can I share this poem to you?" But in the cold, dark night on a 100-mile race, I think we kind of let ourselves. We become vulnerable. We're willing to share certain things, and Buddy was a great dog, and I wish I had a photo of him handy. But today we went and we adopted from our local animal shelter another dog, and so we do love dogs, and I would be happy to share the poem that I shared with Matt that night.
Beautiful. Please.
Old friend, you sorely are missed. Your soul is in heaven now, and the angels are blessed. Fond memories of you will cherish and hold. Thank you, old friend, for sharing your soul and passion for life and friendship sincere. We're grateful for the time that you spent with us here. We know you're at peace and surrounded by friends. One day we'll join you and be together again, old friend, buddy boy. And I wrote that running a 100-mile race right after we had to put him to sleep.
Beautiful. As a dog lover, I speak for all of us dog lovers out there. That is beautiful. And I can't think of a bigger tribute to your dog, Buddy, than doing that in the middle of something huge to you, like running that 100-mile race. Jeff, we're going to keep our eye on you.
He got me through that one because it was about 10 miles into it. I'm sorry?
Guys, I want to do this again on different levels. I want Jeff to achieve that 100 race plateau, and I want to keep an eye on my buddy Matt and see where the ultramarathon world takes him. You guys have been incredible guests.
You got a deal.
This episode of Taking It to the Streets is brought to you by Wrightwood Medical, the leader in used and refurbished medical equipment. Wrightwood specializes in ultrasound equipment, but can also be your vendor of choice when sourcing lower cost alternatives for your operating room suites, scanning the entire medical spectrum. From single physician offices to larger hospitals, Wrightwood is the lower cost solution for your everyday medical equipment needs, and all of Wrightwood's equipment comes with warranty. You can reach Wrightwood directly at www.wrightwoodmedical.com. That is with a W, WRIGHTWOOD medical, or 773-848-7100. Again, 773-848-7100. If it's used medical equipment, it's Wrightwood Medical. Welcome back to Taking It to the Streets. It's Andy Goldman. I really hope you enjoyed that segment with Jeff and with Matt on the ultramarathoner. We try to do stuff that's out of the box here that we find of interest. We hope you do as well. Please feel free to reach out and let us know what you thought of that segment. Again, the people that we reach out to are not the ESPN crowd. They want a little bit of a deviation from the mean, and we tried to give you that with their story, and hopefully you enjoyed it. On we go to the NFL. As you can see, Mike is not in the room today. Mike's just dealing with a bad cold, and he told me to run with it alone this week. He will be back next week, but of course, Mike's a fighter, so he did give us his 3 selections, which I will share with you shortly. Mike comes in 58% for the season. He is 26-19. I finally made it to 50%. I know it's nothing to gloat over, but there was a part of this season, folks, where I was 42%. So it's getting a little interesting maybe with Mike and I as we head to the final 3 weeks of the season. I was thinking today about my thoughts of the season thus far. What's moving the needle for me as we get closer to the playoffs? And I'm a sucker for a person or a team that's tasted adversity. So just think that through for a second. Is the team that you like moving forward in the playoffs, potentially a Super Bowl team, have they tasted adversity in your brain? Have there been mass injuries? Has there been a referendum on their coach mid-season? That's what I would call adversity. Have they stuck together through a swoon in the middle of the season that could have destroyed them? Or has it been relatively easy the entire way? Now, we know, if you're watching this, that we subscribe to the Grateful Dead's line from Uncle John's band, when life looks like easy street, there's danger at your door. Go ask Ohio State about that. So we know when there's no such thing as a non-turbulent ride. So from my humble opinion, there's a couple of teams from each conference that stick out that have handled adversity very well thus far in comparison to the other teams that are still alive that have had no adversity. So when I think of the NFC, the Eagles have hung in there. It's been bad for the last 6 weeks. They've just haven't looked like a flicker of a Super Bowl champion, but going out and ripping Vegas's head off shows us that there's fire there. And please, folks, don't do the "it was Vegas" routine. The Bears, if you love them, needed to go to the last play of the game and block a kick to beat Vegas. So let's not do "it was just Vegas." They destroyed Vegas. They didn't need to block a kick at the gun. Philly has tasted adversity. They remain in this thing, whether you want to believe it or not. The Bucks, I don't think I've watched the Bears lose games that I can't believe a NFL team could ever lose in my life for generations at a time. I don't think I ever saw what I saw Thursday night against Atlanta. Again, the worst part of it is they needed the game. That's always the worst part of it. We'll get to that in a moment about they needed the game. So nobody needed it worse on Thursday night than Tampa at home, up 14 with 10 minutes to go. Everything that could go wrong is going to go wrong, including not covering up a fumble that would have totally, it's just insane what happened with Tampa. But for right or for wrong, they've kind of hung in there. They just have. Now, they're wilting a little bit right now. So I don't know if they shouldn't be on this list, quite frankly, or not. But generously, I'm putting Tampa in there. I don't feel that way about Carolina. I don't feel like Tampa's facing adversity. Tampa has a loaded lineup, talent on both sides of scrimmage, and they're dealing with adversity right now. We'll see what Tampa does with it. They probably shouldn't be on this list. The 49ers deserve to be on the list. The Niners have dealt with massive amounts of injury, releasing players before the season starts, like Debo. And, of course, losing Fred Warner, losing their quarterback for at least half the season, losing Kittle for at least 5 games. They lost everybody. I mean, everybody's been gone. I have to look and see if Trent Williams has played every game. They've lost McCaffrey. It's insane. And they're the highest injured team as far as amount of injuries since 2017. They've been to 2 Super Bowls. So a pedigreed, classy team doesn't blame injury. That takes me to the last team, the Lions. A non-pedigreed team will always blame injury, will always blame the weather, will always blame influences other than themselves. So, but the Lions, in a weird way, have hung in there. This hasn't been the year that the Lions thought they were going to get. When they drilled the Bears early on in the season, you thought the Lions were going out for a 13-4 season. Okay, that's just not how it's gone. They are a working man's 8-6, and they are hanging on for dear life to try to get in the playoffs, and will need help. So they're dealing with adversity. So I like it. I despise their pedigree because I think it's inexistent. They in Cleveland, no pedigree. So it makes me shy away from them. But I'm comparing those NFC teams to the Bears, where there's been no adversity at all. I mean, is losing Rome Odunze for a game against Cleveland considered adversity? Green Bay has had a perfect trip. So they have not experienced adversity. We're going to get to know Green Bay on Saturday night with the loss of Parsons. We're going to get to know them at Soldier Field. Can this Green Bay team handle adversity? This is a 7th year, I want to say, LaFleur. And if he's the real deal and he's a real big-time coach, I'm still on the fence with him. He's like, depends. I'm about 60 no, 40 yes on LaFleur. And we're going to get to know LaFleur, and we're going to get to know Green Bay Saturday night in Chicago. We're also going to get to know the Bears. So that's a big, big ball game. But for my 2 cents, I don't think either of those 2 teams have faced adversity like the 4 I mentioned. Now we go to the AFC. The Steelers. Again, there was a job search. It felt like from the fans of the Pittsburgh Steelers for months for Mike Tomlin's job. And they have resurrected the season. They have bonded together. They clearly want to play for this guy. And they're more than in it. And they've tasted adversity, and they've enjoyed what adversity has done for their team. It's brought them together. Different team with Highsmith out there. Totally different team with Highsmith out there. So, I don't know. Don't know if I love them. Don't know if I don't, but they're the opposite of a team like the Lions, who have no pedigree. The Pittsburgh's absolutely loaded with pedigree. So the Steelers have tasted some adversity, and I like how they've responded. The Buffalo Bills, they had a rough patch. If you remember that Monday nighter at Atlanta, where they got shown up. If you remember just how poorly they've played up until, they played poorly last week against New England. I'm sorry. I know they came back and won the game, but they spotted them 28 points. It was horrible in the first half. The first 3 quarters is horrible. So they're a weird team, but they've hung together. They really have. There's been adversity. They've, of course, got to deal with the grumblings about Sean McDermott, his job. I'm not the only person that knows that Josh Allen's going to be 30 years old in May. So the adversity has come to them. They have responded. Okay? We like horse racing analogies on the show. So when the horse gets whipped at the 3/4 pole, you want to see that horse move on and respond to the whip, as it says, not back up. Okay, that's the thing. You want the jockey to hit your horse, and the horse responds to the whip and makes a move. And any of these teams I've mentioned have been, the jockey has gotten out and used the proverbial whip to get this team going. And I've liked what I've seen. The Texans, there was a team left for dead a month ago. They're not making the playoffs kind of talk. They're not. They're almost locked and loaded now. And they found themselves at Arrowhead in a brutal spot. It's going to be tough. Whoever plays them, that defense is for real. And they can get the ball downfield with Stroud to Nico. It's not about Woody Marks. It's about the defense, and it's about Nico Collins. That's a legit force of nature They have the best defense in the game. They haven't tasted adversity like the Steelers have. They haven't tasted adversity like the Niners have this season or like Detroit has, but they've tasted it. They have. Last team I put in that grouping is Baltimore. Baltimore has tasted some adversity. It has not been easy. Lamar goes down at Arrowhead. Lamar goes down a good 5 weeks. And it was ugly watching Baltimore play during those 5 weeks with Cooper Rush out there. It got so bad that Harbaugh has got to put in, the third string quarterback. And, it is what it is. I mean, Baltimore was for a time unwatchable. And last week, their ears were pricked and they looked real solid in that big performance at Cincinnati. That was a good performance for a team that embarrassed themselves to that team on Thanksgiving Day. So that shows me that they're live. They are absolutely live. But if you haven't tasted adversity, good luck, because nothing but adversity follows you from this point forward. So those are the teams right there that intrigue me moving forward. I've said it for weeks now. I'll stick by it. Nothing's changed. If it's about coaching, if it's about pedigree, on the NFC side, I'm going to take San Francisco. If it's about defense wins championships, I'm going to take Houston. And those two play each other in the Super Bowl. That's just me. We're doing a podcast. We got to stick our necks out and have some opinions instead of the wait and see. We're not ESPN. We're not going to wait to see what happens this week before we make our opinion and then change it the week after. That's not what we do here. So here we go with our picks. It only seems like yesterday, like the Carpenter saying about, I was 42%. I'm 50% now, folks. And the jockey did take the whip out on me, and I have responded of late. Now, is it a game with me and Mike? Are we even in a battle yet with 3 to go? He's 58%, I'm 50. I don't know. But here we go. Let's start with Mike. Can't give you the rationale because Mike is ill right now. He'll be back next week. So I'm just going to give you the picks again. He's 26-19. He's 58% against the spread for the season. There's no place you're listening to that has a better percentage than that, period. So Mike will open up with the Thursday game, and he'll take the Rams -1.5 over Seattle. He will then, on Saturday, he will take the Bears +1.5 over Green Bay. And then on Monday, he will take the 49ers -6 over Indy. So I once again repeat Mike McLaughlin's picks. The Rams -1.5. The Bears +1.5. The 49ers -6. Let's move on to my picks. I bet numbers, not teams. Let's just lead with that. Always looking for a good number. Always looking for an undervalued moment in the sun. That's what I run with. So I'm not looking for injury. I'm not looking for, and I also want to put something to rest here. If you haven't noticed it yet, folks, with this teams that have been eliminated. And again, this is an idiotic narrative that you'll hear from ESPN for generations. They don't have anything to play for. Okay. So let's just unpack that for a moment. When ESPN does that, they're not playing for anything. They're not, those guys on New Orleans, they got no reason to be out there playing hard. Those guys out there on Tennessee, they're not playing for anything. Okay, in the literal sense, they're right. They're not playing for a playoff spot in the current season. That is a true sentence. But how much money do you make? The person that's listening to me right now. How much money do you make? Do you have the number in your head yet? Okay, I venture to say that it's a pittance compared to the league minimum in the NFL. Do you know what the league minimum is? This is the minimum. This isn't if you're a 5-year veteran. This is if you're on the 53-man roster. Have you thought through what you think the number is yet? It's 840,000. Is that worth playing for? Because you march off to your job every day for a portion, a pittance of that, and you play for it. If you're a veteran, it fluctuates. Up to a 4-year veteran, it would be $1.25 million as the minimum. The minimum. So think it through, folks. You march off to your jobs in fear of getting fired and having to feed your families for a pittance of that. But the New Orleans Saints and the New York Jets and the Tennessee Titans players, those are teams made up of players, they don't have anything to play for. What do you think their job would be if they weren't playing cornerback for the Tennessee Titans? Do you think it would pay in the neighborhood of $1.2 million? Okay, now that we've all had a good laugh, we know where we're going here. So don't let an ignorant narrative about they have nothing to play for. I would continue the sentence here, of course, on Taken to the Streets, that they have nothing to play for other than being a millionaire in a lifespan that lasts 3.3 years. And if that's nothing, then they have nothing to play for. But I'd be scared why you go off to your job if that's nothing. So I think they have plenty to play for, and that's my precursor into my first pick of the day, which is the Jets plus 4.5 over New Orleans. They obviously know New Orleans is going to be overvalued after big wins against Carolina last week, Tampa this week. I mean, right? So Joe Schmo's not going to bet them against Carolina where they were getting 2.5, or Tampa where they're obviously a dog too. Now they're going to lay points with them. So this thing opened anywhere from 2.5 to 4. I get 4.5 because we go by the numbers of DraftKings. I think there's good value there with the Jets versus New Orleans, and I think everybody that's going to be playing in the game has something to play for. So we'll take the Jets plus 4.5. Second game, New England. Here we go. Everybody's worst enemy now because they dropped the bucket against Buffalo last week. So had them last week, of course. Now we're not going to have them this week, which gives us a better number. And they also get sprinkled the stupid narrative that they don't need the game. They're playing Baltimore, who, of course, needs the game. We love betting against teams that need the game. We love that one. Again, this thing opened anywhere from 1 to 2.5. We're getting the key number of 3. Sign me up. New England, plus 3 over Baltimore. Love teams that don't need the game, playing teams that need the game. Once again, all together. Love teams that don't need the game versus teams that need the game for the reasons that I just talked to you about a moment ago. The money, the financial. I'm only in this maybe for 3.5 years. So I'm sorry Scott Van Pelt doesn't understand that, but yeah, I'm in it to win it. Maybe it won't be at New Orleans or Tennessee or, the New York Jets, but maybe it'll be on the taxi squad with the Bears next year. But yeah, I need the money and I need to win. Lastly, in love with the key number, a quasi key number of last 5-6 years has evolved since the advent of the 2-point conversion, moving back the extra point of 2.5. It used to be just a who cares and actually a negative because it's not 3. 2.5 has quietly evolved into a key number, not 2, 2.5. Give us Arizona. plus 2.5 over Atlanta this weekend. With that said, here are my 3 picks. New England, plus 3 over Baltimore. Arizona, plus 2.5 over Atlanta. And lastly, the Jets, plus 4.5. And that is over the New Orleans Saints. We look forward to seeing everybody, same place, same time, here on Taking It to the Streets.
Goodbye from St. Pete. And remember, folks, you're only as good as your last trade, so never too high, never too low, till we meet again.